Good afternoon, everyone. We are getting started with the regular June 10th, 2015 meeting with executive session. We are proceeding to item C1, call to order. Let the record reflect that Board Member Hernandez, Board Member Gomez, and myself are present. Do we have Board Member Cantu over the phone?
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Board Member Cantu. We are now proceeding to item C2, Pledge of Allegiance. If you can all stand and join me.
To the flag of the United States and to the republic for which one nation under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now proceeding to item C3, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Board Member Hernandez, second by Board Member Lopez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I vote aye as well. Motion carries. We now move to item D, report/summary of current events. Superintendent Dr. Chavez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, governing board members, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our governing board meeting. Just wanted to report that we did have an executive team retreat, which was very fruitful. We were able to discuss not only the accomplishments of this particular year, but also making plans for the year to come. And each of the executive team members are actually very excited about the upcoming school year. We know that we'll face some challenges. However, we think that we have a very good plan to be able to meet those challenges and to move our district to the next level. So thank you, executive team, for not only attending the retreat, but your professionalism and expertise is always something that I admire and will continue to admire as we move forward. If you would please give the executive team a big round of applause, I would really appreciate it. And I would also like to thank governing board members Cantu, Hernandez, and Lopez for attending our annual data showcase. Dr. Lawler and the Educational Services team did a fabulous job. It was so nice to see professional educators present in such a old school way, knowing the curriculum, knowing the information they were going to present by heart and by mind. Larry Ainsworth and Dr. Remus did a fabulous job. They were simply amazing. It's nice to see that those types of educators are still around. Having all of that information in your head, I don't know how they do it, but they're simply brilliant folks, and we did take advantage of it. And thank you, board members, for attending the showcase. I truly appreciate it, so that you could see the expertise and see educators do their thing in a very dramatic way. Also, would like to report that I will be presenting at the ASBA Summer Leadership Conference. This conference is on Friday, June 12th at 2:10. It's my understanding that board member Hernandez and Gomez will be there, as well as our president Lopez. So I look forward to seeing you at the breakout session. I will be presenting on the U program, not only on the program, but also on the implementation of that particular program in our school district. As you remember, years ago, our goal was to be an example to the state of Arizona and to the nation and present at state conferences, and then also expand to national conferences. And this is one of the state conferences that we've had the pleasure of being invited to. And then on the same weekend, Dr. Lawler, myself, Dr. Jasmer, Patricia Lopez, and Mary Kay Radovich will be presenting at the ASA Summer Conference in Tucson, Arizona, which will be presenting the college and career readiness. That particular PowerPoint has been done very, very meticulously in terms of showing exactly what we're doing in the district to prepare our kids for college and career. And I'm extremely proud of our team to be asked to present at the ASA conference. And if any of you are in Tucson at that time, come by and see the presentation. I look forward to it, and I believe that not only will our own people benefit from it, but the folks in Tucson will also benefit greatly from it. So thank you, Dr. Lawler, Dr. Jasmer, Patricia, and Mary Kay. I look forward to working with you in Tucson. Also would like to thank Veronica Sanchez, Director of Communications and Community Engagement, Rita Sanchez, Communications Coordinator, and Alma, Language Services Coordinator, and Tom McGorry for their work on the website. If you haven't had a chance to go look at the website, it really looks fantastic, Tom. So I really appreciate the work that's been done with that. It's not completely done yet. We still have some things that we have to add to it, but we're well on the way. I think it just looks fantastic. So thank you for your hard work and expertise. We look forward to that being completed. And it's my pleasure to introduce Rita Sanchez. She will be presenting the Superintendent's Award of Excellence. Rita?
Thank you. Good evening, governing board members, Mr. President, Dr. Chavez, and executive team. It is my honor tonight to pay tribute to an employee who went above and beyond the scope of her job. In this case, this employee helped save the life of one of our children. Palm Lane cafeteria manager Ana Moya said she was just doing her job when a third grade student started choking on her food that month. When students realized what was happening and started screaming for help, Ana rushed to the student's side and quickly dislodged the food, in this case pizza, from her throat. Afterwards, Ana took the student straight to the nurse's office and made sure she got checked and received medical attention. The person who nominated Ana, Casey Newman, assistant principal at Palm Lane, says this is just one of many ways in which Ms. Moya stands out as an exceptional cafeteria manager. The staff and students at the school are fortunate to have her. Ana also greets everyone with a friendly smile when she is filling in at her district bistro. For her bravery and quick action, Ana Moya is very deserving of this award. Ana, please come forward to accept the Superintendent's Award of Excellence.
Thank you so much, Ana. I know that you're an awesome manager, but you're also an awesome person. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you.
And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Zeke OJ. He will be presenting the 2015-2016 proposed budget.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez, Mr. President, board members, members of the public. Good evening and welcome. I am happy to present our 2015-2016 budget. Our maintenance and operation budget is estimated to be about $100.5 million, or about 61% of our total budget. Our federal grants, Title 1, 2, 3, and 6E, will bring in about $21 million, or 13% of our total budget. Food services is estimated at $15 million, the same as this year. And the District Additional Assistance Fund, which replaces the former capital fund, will bring in about $9.4 million, or 6%. The Classroom Site Fund is about $8 million. And the money that we have set aside to pay our bond, to pay the interest and principal on our bond, is about $2.2 million. The Indian Gaming Fund is estimated at about $1.2 million. We also have other funds that total close to $7 million, and this includes the indirect fund, the plant fund, the tax credit fund, and a host of other smaller funds. So altogether, we are looking at about $164 million for next year. And the next page is a graphical representation of the page that we just talked about earlier. So, what is included in this budget? The budget includes a 1.59% increase in the base support level, or what we call the BSL. For the first time in about 3 years, our enrollment has been pretty flat. We only grew by 65 students, while in the prior years we grew by about 700, 500 students. So that presented some of its challenges. Back in April, the governor wanted us to reduce our district additional assistance fund by 5%, which for our district translated to about $2.2 million. With the assistance of the board, we were able to do that. A major result of that action, the action that the board took, the hard but necessary action that the board took, was that we are able to increase the money that goes into the classroom.
Got you.
This year, 70 cents out of every dollar that we get goes into the classroom. Next year, I am happy to report that that amount is increasing to 72%. 72 cents out of every dollar that we get will be channeled into our classrooms. And again, this is huge. This is a direct result of what the board did, making those hard but necessary decisions in the spring. That will equate to about 2.12% increase into the classroom from just this year alone, in just 1 year.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, Mr. OJ.
Yeah.
Ms. Cantu, if you could please place your phone on mute.
Thank you. Proceed, Mr. OJ.
Thank you, Mr. President. The budget also includes a 2% COLA, cost of living increase that the board approved. Now, 1% of that increase will remain in the base for the 2015-16 year. The other 1% will not. But in November, every single employee in the district will receive a check for 2% of their annual salary in November. Also included in the budget is a permanent increase of 10 cents per hour for all employees who are in the A11, A12, and A13 pay scale. We've also set aside $350,000 to accommodate professional development for teachers. As teachers get more education, when they get their master's degree or a second master's degree or PhD degree, we pay them stipends. And this $350,000 has already been accounted for in the budget. There is a slight reduction in the contribution that we make to ASRS for retirement purposes of about 0.13%. That reduction has also been accounted for in this proposed budget. Thanks to the board, we are able to move from the A plan to the B plan. and the cost savings associated with that has also been accounted for in this budget. Now, as many people will remember, our district participates in the Smart Schools program. This coming year, we are projecting a savings of about $150,000. That savings has also been accounted for in this budget. Now, separate from the $2.2 million that the board authorized and approved in spring, we are always continuously, looking at efficiencies and how to improve our operations. Now, subsequent to those cuts, we have eliminated, one systems operations technician position in Educational Services Department, and the Human Resources Department has also agreed to do away with the administrative subs that we have had in prior years. Now, they have come up with different alternatives to handle those tasks going forward. So we are realizing savings as we move forward. Now, we've also set aside about $164,000 from all of these additional savings that are accruing to accommodate some of the requests we received from our board, like the Culture and Climate Survey, and to accommodate, the potential need for computer programmers. At the last board meeting, some board members, made reference to how they'd like some items, on our websites that we currently do not have. Those tasks are computer programmer related, and we are doing our best, to set money aside and get our district to the level that we want to be proud of technologically. Our tax rate, is about 10.87 per 100 of assessed valuation. And also in this budget, we have increased Part C, the 301 money, by $600,000 to every single teacher in our school district. Every single teacher will receive $1,000, this coming year, up from $400 last year. I am particularly proud of the last item, that the budget balance carried forward of about $3.2 million. For the first time, we are able to carry over the maximum that statute permits us to carry over. Now, how is this important? This is very important because we will continue to maintain our A rating as a school district. As most of you know, we have bonds out there. So investors, looking at that, will look to see, how well, are we managing our resources, financial resources. The stress report that we get from the Auditor General will be low because we have a lot of, cushion to support, our expenditures. It also shows that we are being fiscally prudent. And finally, Mr. President and board members, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to our outgoing Director of Business Services for the hard work that she has, for her hard work, and her dedication to our district. I'll also miss our weekly intellectual, bantering and what if analysis that we go through, all the time. But I am very happy with, her work, for us. And we have what I believe has been a very good, well-crafted budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And at our next board meeting, I will come back to the board with this same presentation, at which time we will ask you to adopt it. But in the meantime, statute, requires us to go ahead and publish, this proposed budget and then come back to you for adoption. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Yes, and that person that he's speaking about is Sherry Salaya. She's with us today. She is secured a job with Phoenix Union High School District with our friends over in that part of the state. So Sherry, please stand so we can give you a round of applause. We appreciate keep Mr. Scribner in line over there, and I'm sure everything will work out just fine.
Do we have any questions, board members? Board Member Hernandez?
Yes, Mr. President, fellow board members, Dr. Chavez, just regarding the 164,000 and for certified and the questions and the concerns that we had, we've been reaching a lot of communication from certain schools regarding the challenges posed by the crossing guards and the filling of positions and finding adequate hours and jobs for them. How is that coming along?
Actually, it's Mr. President, governing board members, it's coming along very well. We do have an update that you'll be getting July 1 on the classified innovation, and also you'll get an update on the teacher hiring dilemma that we do face. However, we're doing everything in our power to secure teachers in Southwest and Arizona. And today we just authorized some funds for Dr. Dave Santillanes to go to Puerto Rico. It's my understanding that the salaries in Puerto Rico are rather low, comparatively speaking, to our district. So we're hoping that that trip will be successful. So we're looking at innovative ways to fulfill our obligation to our students and fill those positions. But at this point in time, the process is going very well.
That was another, I also have concerns regarding the teacher shortage and some recommendations, but I still recommend South Texas for that recruitment versus Puerto Rico first. But I just a concern again, I just wanted to make sure that classified felt that we satisfied or researched did our work diligently in a good faith effort to try to position them with other positions when we made the changes and agreed to the budget as we did.
Matter of fact, Mr. President, governing board members, every time I've come in the afternoon in this building, there's been approximately 30 to 40 folks taking the paraprofessional test, and they are working diligently to pass that particular test. Mary Morrison is the one that's assisting them, and they're doing a fabulous job. I don't know the exact numbers, and maybe Dr. Murphy can help me with that have already passed the test and then moved on to other positions. But they are doing well. They're taking the test. The most difficult piece for some of our employees, frankly, is the math part. There is some fractions that are involved with that, and Mary sits with them right at their desk and communicates about how to compute maybe a fraction or some word problem, and they're getting one-on-one help, really. So the process is working well, and Dr. Murphy, do you have any particular numbers for us?
Dr. Chavez, members of the governing board. Actually, no, I don't. From the last time that we had spoken, and we had some 50-some individuals that had processed through, and some 40-some that were going to work toward it this summer. But what we will provide at the next governing board meeting is a comprehensive analysis of our hiring in administrative teachers and in the support staff. And certainly we're maintaining that position of not posting any outside help in our support staff positions until we have completed accommodating those folks that were displaced. So we'll have a full report for you on that with the specific numbers for the July 1st meeting.
Dr. Chavez, and the reason I'm asking was we're discussing the budget as we are, and I would welcome my fellow board members to ask any questions around the areas of concern that we discussed here at our board meeting. But it's some future date, Dr. Chavez, and I know we did have a good representation of classified staff, dual presentation, before the board. I'm interested in perhaps some, not necessarily a survey, but like an outcome of a meeting or a forum type to help relay our message with classifieds. And a lot of it, there's a lot of factors that come into play. I know the positions, education, professional development, everything that comes across with the same issues as we encounter in working with our parents. But I think we've got to take a more proactive approach in helping educate and that good faith effort on our part, because I know sometimes when we make some decisions, and although we may have the justification, somehow that doesn't translate across. Not that we're not saying it, but it just doesn't. It filters down to them and doesn't get there. People are frustrated and angry, and social media goes crazy. But I'd like to help in that education if we could and be proactive on that in a future type of discussion with the body.
Mr. President, Board Member Hernandez, yeah, we concur. Want to make sure that folks understand the process and that they see the opportunities that are out there, because we do have quite a few openings which would be filled by internal folks, even summer help, etc. I'll give you an example, like the painting crew, also in several other areas. We typically will try to hire external and internal candidates, or give them an opportunity. In this particular case, what we're doing is only opening it up internally. So that's made a huge difference in providing them opportunities to work in summer help and also permanent jobs.
Thank you.
Board Member Gomez.
Mr. President and Dr. Chavez administration, I wanted to echo what Mr. Hernandez mentioned as well, because I was too concerned with the classified employees. And after reviewing the agenda this weekend, I noticed that we had 28 classified individuals resigning, or that are on this agenda today, and I wanted to see how that was going to affect those 28 resignations are going to affect those classified positions that we were going to be eliminating, and how all those numbers are going to help our concerns or bottom line with that. So I'm glad to hear that that'll be presented next. We're working on it. It's looking good, and then we'll be presented with numbers at our next meeting. I know the last meeting I was over the top. I wasn't present. I was visiting my parents in New Mexico. But since we're talking about budget, wanted to commend the gentleman who gave the presentation on our energy efficiency and our savings. I think that's a phenomenal job on the amount of money the district saved. And I know that I wasn't on the board at the time, but Mr. Hernandez mentioned that they were concerned putting all this money forward. But it looks like it has paid out in the long run. And I'm glad that to see that number of savings, and that we are, again, really energy efficient. I'm sure board member Lopez is ecstatic with those numbers, as that is what he does on his personal profession. So congratulations on that. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Early, on slide number 2, the district additional assistance.
Yes.
What does that category cover? Like, is that like maintenance for the district building, or additional staff, or?
No. That
Your mic is on.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, board members, the district additional assistance replaced two funds we had before. The core, which is the capital overlay fund, and the soft capital. So those two went away, and the district additional assistance is now in place of those two funds. And basically it's a capital fund. And capital funds are used primarily for long-term items, buildings, renovations, items that have a life cycle greater than 1 year. So ideally they are not used for salaries or benefits or supplies or expenses or any of those.
Thank you, Mr. Ojai. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
I forgot about you, Ms. Kantu. I apologize. Go ahead.
Don't forget about me. I'm still here.
Do you have any questions?
Yes. I have actually I want to say thank you to Mr. Ojai for the presentation on the budget. And I have just to elaborate on the 10-cent raise for A, 11, 12, and 13. What is that refers to?
Mr. President, Board Member Cantu, thank you for your kind words. What Dr. Chavez approved was we looked, in addition to all employees receiving a 2% raise this year, he also authorized that those employees that are in the categories A1, A11, A12, and A13 will, on top of the 2%, receive an additional 10 cents per hour permanent raise. So what that translates to, if we have an employee, say crossing guard, who is making 11 cents, it's $11.10 an hour, he will get a 2% raise, and he will also get an additional 10 cents, raise on their paycheck. The 2%, as we said, will take place in November. Will be paid out in November. The 10 cents is effective, the beginning of the year, July 1. I don't know if that was what you were asking, Madam Cantu.
Yes, Mr. Ojai, thank you very much. And then on the following page, I believe there is $164,000 for culture and climate survey. Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yes, Madam Cantu, thank you for the question. What we have done, in addition to the costs that we talked about earlier back in the spring, was that we are constantly looking at our operations. We are constantly looking for ways to save money. And just before the $164,000, you will see that we have eliminated one position in Educational Services Department, and we have also squeezed out some savings of about $94,000 from the Human Resources Department. Now, the sum of those two savings, came to about $164,000. Now, we are planning to use that money to address some of the concerns that the board has raised. Concerns like making sure that our websites has some features that we do not have the skill sets at this time to do without going to a consultant. It will also help us address some of the requests that the board has made with regards to culture and climate. The reason why we set that aside is to let the board know that we are constantly looking at our operations, and we are all constantly looking for ways to reduce our expenses and to be more efficient.
thank you, Mr. J. I really appreciate your hard work, and I really want to commend you for the work that you do, but especially for the $3 million that are not in red. I think it's great that we are ending a year, or we're beginning a year with a positive amount in there. And I want to thank you for that, because I know that you are very dedicated to really and committed to do what is best for our district. And I thank you for coming to the board with all the questions, especially, addressing the board. Am I making that noise?
No.
No?
No.
Sorry. But, fulfilling the board's request, like the climate and culture, I think that'll be awesome. Thank you very much again, and we look forward for the following year.
Mr. President, Madam Cantu, and governing board members, one of the things that we felt was necessary, going back to that 10 cents an hour for those particular employees are the lowest paid employees in our district. And we felt that it was necessary to move their hourly rate up so that we could compete with other school districts and other options that they may have. We know that it's not a lot of money. However, it's a good faith effort to retain and also attract employees in those particular categories. So thank you for noticing that. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Charlie.
Last call for questions. Hearing none, we are proceeding. Dr. Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. President, governing board members. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Janet Hecht. She's the principal of Glenelg Downs. She will present to you a bullying report.
Good evening, Mr. President, governing board members, and the executive team. I am Janet Hecht. However, I'm the principal at Spitone Elementary School. And it is my honor to talk to you tonight about how we proceed when we are presented with a bullying allegation at our school. As we know, it is our utmost charge to provide students with a safe and secure learning environment each day. So, to start you off, just at Spitone, we would like preventative measures rather than reactive measures. So we present our children each day throughout the school year with our Spitone Code of Conduct. And we're referred to as the Tigers, that's our mascot. And we ask our students to be safe, to be responsible, and be respectful. We have these posted across our campus, and we have indicators about what that looks like and sounds like in their everyday school life. We do a bullying awareness assembly where we have a dojo from a karate place come, and he talks to the kids, and he's very real, and he talks to them about the importance of advocating for themselves, advocating for their friends, and the difference between reporting an incident and tattling. Because we know a lot of kids are worried that if they report, they're going to be called a snitch or a tattle, or it's going to have a negative repercussion. So we really build on the reporting aspect. And then Miss Bartlett, my assistant principal, and myself, we run community meetings. So we go in every classroom each semester, winter and spring, and we do community meetings with our kids. And it's really, we role play with kids, we talk to them. It's about building empathy and getting kids to realize that it's not okay to treat people mean. It's not okay to cause them undue harm or stress. And it's really about social skills. How do you interact with each other, and how do you have conflict management as well as resolution? So those are just a few of the things that we do on the preventative side. If, and we know it will happen because they're children, we are presented with an allegation of bullying, kids have multiple ways in which that they can present that information. We have student complaint forms. They're in the front office as well as in the classroom. Kids know that. I will be honest, most of our kids use our second way, and that's where they either speak directly with Samantha or myself, teachers, staff members on the playground, in the cafeteria, And so those are the ways that we typically receive the information about the bullying allegation. Once we've received the information, we ask the student who reported the incident to write their statement. That's their due process. For our littles, our younger kids who maybe aren't proficient in writing, we allow them to draw pictures, or we allow them to tell us, and we script exactly what the kids say to us. At that point, we ask clarifying questions. We're very careful what questions we ask because we don't want to lead the conversation. We don't want to add any undue information if that's not what the kids are trying to report to us. We reassure the reporter that they can stay anonymous. A lot of kids, even though we're working on advocating, they're still worried about telling. So we tell them that we don't have to give their name to the person that they're making the allegation against. They can stay anonymous. We call one person at a time. This maintains that confidentiality and that due process. Who's listed in the report, we again ask them to write their statement or draw pictures or whatever they're capable of. At that point, do the same clarifying questions that we asked the initial child who presented the allegation. That helps keep the investigation pure. So we're not, like I said, adding anything that isn't maybe accurate. And sometimes it's difficult because we have feelings, we have empathy, and you may want to include something that probably wasn't really part of it. So we have to be very careful to keep those clear-cut lines during the investigation. And then based on the preponderance of the evidence, we determine if truly the incident aligns with what the discipline matrix calls bullying. And this is probably where we've had to do our most education with parents, with staff, with students, is that bullying in a true form really is all of these three things. It's intended to cause harm or distress, it occurs repeatedly over time, and that there's an imbalance of power or strength amongst the parties. And what we typically find is that it may hit one of those criteria, but it doesn't always include all three of the criteria. And that's where parents on the side of the child making the allegation, we have to do a lot of educating because no one wants their child to be made to feel bad. On the flip side, parents of the child who's being alleged to be the bully are concerned because no one wants their child labeled a bully. So we're doing education on both sides. Then, if the evidence shows that it is not bullying, then we determine the appropriate consequence, again by referencing the matrix, and we do our best to provide interventions. We role play, we ask questions, we do mediation between parties. We do a lot of different things because we want, again, preventive behavior. Our outcome is to change the behavior, not to just provide a consequence. We want to change it because we don't want this to happen again. If the evidence supports that the behavior is bullying, then again, we do the appropriate consequence. We use the matrix, but we also apply interventions. And on both sides, each conversation, we're very real with the parents and with the children about how serious this is, how harmful bullying can be, and how, as Batumi, we want a culture and climate of positivity, where kids at Hope School, all kids are capable of success. That's what we want to put forth. So we try to always let them know that that's not acceptable behavior, and if it occurs, these are the things that may happen as a result of that. And then we leave the meeting with a tomorrow's a new day. We're going to start again. We're going to be positive, and that kind of concludes the investigation and the consequence piece. When Samantha and I were looking at this and talking to Dr. Chavez, we were kind of interested because at Spatomi last year, we only reported 2 incidences under, I think it's THI, threatening, harassment, and intimidation is the reporting where you put it into synergy. So we were very curious to see what the data said district-wide. What kind of trend are we looking at? So your last slide actually shows the reported bullying incidences from 2012 till now, and you can see that according to Synergy in our reporting, we are on a downward trend as far as bullying. So that made me feel good that at least what we're doing at our school appears to be working with our children. So, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Janet, for that presentation. I do know that you're a Spitali, not Dennis. My apologies, bad superintendent.
I would take Delms. I would not. That's okay.
Yes, my apologies. I know that you're a Spitali. We will take any questions if you have any for Janet and I at this point.
Yes, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Board Member Cantu.
My question for Ms. Janet is, do we have, and this is probably for Dr. Chavez, do we have the same uniform way of addressing bullying at every single campus in our district?
Mr. President, Board Member Cantu, yes, the district handbook that goes to parents has a matrix in there that has the definition of bullying and also the complaint form, etc. That's why I wanted a practitioner, if you will, to come and report so that folks would understand how the process works at each of our sites. It's a little bit different in the middle schools in terms of due process, simply because the students at the middle schools are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They can write a statement and communicate, so that's very important in terms of due process. And then what's also extremely important is the definition of bullying, so that it is identified as bullying if in fact they meet the criteria for it. Many times in these cases, if it's a mutual combat fight or an assault, if you will, some folks will initially say that it's a bullying incident, which in fact that's not. Neither of those examples are bullying. The media has talked about bullying a great deal and kind of distorted the definition of it. But in fact, if it doesn't meet the 3 criteria, then it's not considered bullying. And we do have a process not only for bullying, but also for mutual combat fights and assault. So the answer is yes.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. One more question. When it mentions that the students will write a statement for the administrators. When we talk about administrators, let's say the kid is reporting an incident, bullying incident. He will go directly to the principal, who is in charge of evaluating the situation.
Mr. President, Board Member Cantu, typically what we try to do is the student can go to anyone that they may trust and they have built a relationship with. It doesn't have to be an administrator, teacher, it doesn't have to be, it has to be someone on campus, obviously, but sometimes, matter of fact, when I was principal of Gilliland Middle School, a lot of our students would report things to our custodian, simply because the relationship that that particular student had with that custodian, they could trust them and know that this information would get to the right people and that the principal would be well aware of what occurred. So really what we want to do is to have students go to a risk-free type of environment where they have the ability to tell the truth and report whatever it is that's going on to someone at school. And in fact, if it is a custodian, then that custodian's duty is to report that to the administration, and then we follow suit. The person in charge of those investigations is the principal, and sometimes the designee may be the vice principal.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. So let's say the kid goes to the parent and tell him this is going on, and the parent immediately go to the school and say, I want to talk to the principal regarding, for a parent, those kind of issues are, one of the biggest ones, one of the most concerning issues. If their kid, if they feel that their kid is in danger or they're going through something so traumatic, they immediately run to the campuses. Who will they contact when they come to the office and tell them, this is the situation I need to report? Who will be their contact? Who will they report to?
Mr. President, Madam Cantu, the parent, if in fact they want to report an incident at the school site, my suggestion is that they communicate directly with the principal. The principal can then communicate with the parent and investigate and then move forward in that process. What we want is that parents have access through the complaint form, and if in fact it's just a conversation in the morning when they're bringing the kid to school, that would be appropriate also. But our principals are in tune with that type of reporting from parents, and will make the time to communicate with parents if in fact there's an incident that occurred. Our principals have what we call an open door policy. There are times when we have to set appointments, etc. But if in fact it's an emergency, and we would consider bullying an emergency, our principals and assistant principals would be willing to meet with that parent and communicate to try and find a solution to the issue.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. This is very important because I have parents on certain issues like that, and that's the reason I wanted to address, or I wanted a presentation on the process that takes place on the campuses. But perhaps, do we have anything on our website that our parents can write a statement and say, because sometimes, and this particular case happened when the mother was facing the kid and noticed some bruises on his body. And she wanted to go immediately to the campus, but it was nighttime. And do we have anything on our website where the parents can immediately send a message to the administrator and make sure that that's addressed properly or immediately?
Mr. President, Madam Cantu, the answer to that question is I don't know. Here's why. In the last website, we did have the complaint form, and it was easy access to get it, and they could, in fact, fill it out and send it in. I don't know if that complaint form is on the website today. However, we're in the process of putting all of those things back on our website that are needed, not only for our parents, but for our staff. And it will be on the website eventually so that they can use the complaint form. Or another way that people have communicated well is through email. All of our email addresses are on the website, including yours truly. And if in fact they want to email me or the principal, typically a parent has a better relationship with the principal, may not know me, some cases they do. But if in fact they do, they can email either one of us and we'll make sure that that particular incident is investigated. And we're looking right now to see if it's on the website, and the answer to that question is yes, it is in Spanish and English, and it is on our website. So thank you, Tom, I appreciate that, making sure that got on. I looked at it the other day and some of those things were not on there, but as you know, we're in a transitionary period, and I'm glad they're on there, and I'm glad that parents have access to it. We want to make sure that we nip these things in the bud quickly and act quickly, simply because we don't want any harm to come to our students or to our parents, matter of fact. So the access that parents have now is much greater than in the past. So and we do appreciate that. As our presentation in Tucson will relate to, we view parents as partners. And
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. Thank you, Doctor. And as we move on into the innovation, and we move on into better access to technology, website, and all that, I think that those are probably some things that we can put in consideration for the betterment of our district. But thank you very much. Thank you, Janet, for your presentation. And
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. Chavez. Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the board.
thank you.
Mr. President, fellow board members, Dr. Chavez.
Member Gomez.
Bullying is pretty.
Mr. Gomez, relax.
Excuse me, sorry about that. Bullying is something that's been talked about. A lot of people are concerned about. You hear a lot about it in the media right now, and one concern, but bullied, no one should be bullied, but I would hope that somewhere within our policies or that our counselors that handle these issues, I know recently there have been several cases on a national level that there have been some young kids, LGBT kids, that have committed suicide because of bullying. And having been a former state director for the Human Rights Campaign and an LGBTQ advocate here in Arizona, I would hope that our staff and counselors are trained specifically for LGBT issues. It's sad to hear, or sad to see those the students that are being bullied for any reason. But as an advocate for the LGBT community, I would I hope that the special training that we have, because that is a very sensitive issue that is going on right now, nationwide, and it's been for a while, but it seems like more recently in the last 6 months there's been a spike in this issues regarding LGBT students.
Yes, thank you for your comments, Mr. Gomez. As a matter of fact, if you'll put that last slide on, Tom, I'd appreciate it. We did update our policy on bullying approximately 1.5 to 2 years ago. And I think we did a fairly good job. But the important thing is this. If you look at 2012-13, look how many instances of bullying were reported. And as you continue through 2014-2015, less than 150 for 20 schools. That is an incredible number. I commend our principals, our assistant principals, our teachers for not only identifying it, but also assuring that it's reported correctly and that the education of what bullying is continues to permeate throughout our entire district. We don't want any kid to get bullied. However, if they do, we also want them to understand that there's consequences for that.
Any last comments? Thank you. Board Member Hernandez.
Mr. President, fellow board members, it's difficult because she's at I was trying not to look at her, she's at Spitoni and we know each other's secrets. From my daughter, being an experienced parent for many years, I think you'll find that you'll learn a lot more about the schools when you have a little one. Engaging personally, I'm always concerned, and when I read the behaviors intended to harm, to cause distress, the behavior occurs repeatedly over time, there's an imbalance of power or strength among the parties. Heck, we gotta have policy for board members. If you would have been to conferences, we have that kind of interaction. We're supposed to be role models. But you're right, this type of behavior shouldn't be tolerated, and it's a fine line. And I know that because in reality, when you're in ground zero, being able to decipher what happened, you want to make sure that nobody's feelings are hurt. I'm a little bit, and I understand the dilemma, having kids obviously, but the education. I think the education, I like seeing those numbers, but I still concern, when I see the large numbers in 2012, 2013, I had a young boy when I first came onto the board and had very aggressive members of a certain segment of our community. And I'm going to tell you, I probably could have drafted my own graph. And when I wouldn't share information about a certain topic with my public role, my son was going to the office and throughout many members, and heck, it's not new, we experienced that. I shouldn't have to go through that, but I had to learn, and it became very important for me to address, the complaints, the complaint forms, and being a viable tool for our community member. I'm still interested though, being what it is as a community and the demographic that we work with. We're very respectful and it's cultural, and it's like me, I'm up here, I don't want to bring up the topic, because I see it from a different perspective. But my experience And I'm sure Ms. Cantu's out there, but every time we're hitting, we're engaging in conversations with our neighborhoods, you still hear, certain schools talk about, what else can I do? I never do anything for our parents, but I'll teach them, and I do go around talking about the complaints. And it's not I'm trying to create hopefully a culture of dialogue where that's not a negative, but it's how can we improve? If we look up here, I was glancing at our vision and our district goals to offer excellent, customer service. How do we do that if we think we're doing great? So we do have some areas of improvement, but thank you for your information. I like the numbers, and obviously I support Mr. Gomez and zero tolerance, but we've got to grow, and we've got some issues to address as we go along the way. And I do believe that even though we have the definition, just like any other topic, everybody has a different perspective, and depending on that experience, and sometimes even though that is our district goal, it's not there yet. I think we're working on it, but that's our reality. But thank you for that.
Mr. President, governing board members, I would agree. If you look at our 3 goals, we've had those 3 goals since I became superintendent, and there's a reason I haven't changed them. We still need to increase student achievement. We're not where we want to be. And we still need to provide exceptional customer service because we're competing not only with other public school systems, but also charter and parochial. And then providing opportunities for innovation is extremely important so that we can cut down costs, as Mr. OJ gave an example of, and also do things smarter. And what's the term, Mrs. Cantu? Work smarter, not harder. Those are the types of things that we're trying to do. But we're not there yet, but we are certainly moving in the right direction, and we do want to improve. So we ask parents to come and help us as partners to solve these issues. And if in fact a student is being bullied in any shape, way, or form, we're willing to investigate and then provide consequences if need be. So we're well on the way. Thank you, Janet, for your presentation. We certainly appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your grandson.
I have a question.
Mr. Lopez has it.
Janet,
I'm so sorry, Mr. President.
Towards the end, or for Dr. Chavez, have we, in the past, have we implemented conversations about preventing bullying or what bullying is with parents? I know that I attended one of your cafecitos and you had close to 80 parents or so. I mean, those are huge crowds, and I think, obviously, I don't attend every cafecito throughout the whole year. I usually do a few per campus. But have we talked about this with parents, given the fact that they do gather in large numbers for the cafecitos?
I will be honest, at Spitoli, we did informally with small groups, but I absolutely think that's a great topic for cafecito. And I think our parent liaison could run it very well. So I think that's great. And we do have a wonderful number of parents who attend, and it's I was going to say earlier when you were asking how parents communicate, they rely on our parent liaison a tremendous amount, and many times that's how I get information, is a parent will contact Ms. Sanchez and then she will contact me. So I think she would be a lovely liaison to help with that, absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez.
To that point, Mr. Lopez, something I've been talking about throughout, I don't know how many years now, but in the cafecitos, we do tend to go family literacy and to help and use, however, we had recently a conversation over the district at the Family Resource Center where we talked about it's in suit, following in suit with our, offering exceptional customer service, is the ability for parents to speak up and feel comfortable regardless of what their topic is. And even if there's an interest in them doing, what can we do for parents as they engage, aside from just checking, volunteering, helping at the school line, or perhaps grading papers, something more meaningful for them. But I think if we help empower parents through various different formats or topics and engage them that way, you have proactive parents coming forward and volunteering and sharing information that could be helpful. But I'm going to say the parent liaison is a difficult, as any other position, but you're the messenger, And sometimes that message, even though you're just bringing, sometimes, I don't want to hear it. I have to be real. That's even myself at times. It's callous. I hear it all the time, but.
Mr. President, governing board members, one of the things that's helping educate our parents and parent liaisons is the U program. Matter of fact, the U program touches upon bullying, touches upon social relationships, and how to appropriately interact with others, etc. It also has the emotional aspect of it. Of course, it does have the student achievement piece also, but our U program is what's dominating the curriculum for our parents, not only for this year, but also for next year. And those 3 books that we give the parents can be used as a resource. And I believe that our Parents as Partners campaign has gone off to a very good start. Can we do better? Absolutely. But the U program has assisted in that, and I think the more the parents interact with us, the more trust we'll have with one another. And we do want to hear the good, but we also need to hear the bad if we're going to get better. So we're open to either or. Thank you, Jen.
Mr. President, Dr. Chavez.
Go ahead, board member Cantu.
Yes, I also would like to mention to Ms. Janet Heck that whenever there is an opportunity, we can sit and talk about what was because these numbers, I was looking at the numbers. I always like to look at the positive. And the numbers that had the amount of bullying that was happening in 2012-13 went down enormously. So these are very good numbers. Something must be taking place and it's being effective. And perhaps the system that is in place is actually helping to identify which actually are the cases and which are not. But I really like the numbers. I mean, they went from almost 300
Yes.
142.
Yes.
I think that this is a great information. And whenever you have a chance, I can sit down and talk to you about. We can sit and talk about how would those numbers start decreasing. And but that's for another time. So thank you, Janet. I like the numbers because it went from 273 to 142. So the system is working there, and I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you, governing board, our member, Mrs. Cantu. I welcome you to come to Spitali anytime. We have an open door. You can come hang out in my office and we can talk about this as long as you want.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, Janet. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Osuna. She'll give you an update on the school safety grant.
Good evening, President Lopez and governing board members. Today I'm here to give you an update on our school safety program that we have here at Cartwright School District. To start off, I want to just tell you that we do have 6 officers that serve our schools. They're not at all the schools, but we have to share some of the SROs among the schools. So the And we'll do this as our application for year 2 for a 3-year grant that is going to be held here at Cartwright School District. Some of the things that our SROs do while they're at the schools is they intervene as a law enforcement officer. We want to let you know that administrators do take a lead on school policy. So they don't really get involved in this or something that's law related. But they serve as a school safety, as part of the school safety assessment and prevention team, which each school that has a school NSRO has this prevention team there. They also collaborate with the school personnel on school-wide safety strategies that all schools have in place. So there are some of them listed right there that they play a part in, as you see. I don't know if Ms. Cantu can see this PowerPoint. If not, I'm just going to say that they collaborate with school personnel with staff trainings, emergency response planning, needs assessment, and prevention programming. So we're going to move into the next part of this program that the SRRs provide, and that's law-related education that they provide to our students. And they have to provide a minimum of 180 hours of this education. They provide it to the classrooms of cohorts of groups of students. And as you can see the slide, it's 3 to 5 classrooms. There's 6 sessions per classroom within 1 quarter to some students, group of students. There has to be at least 1 hours of universal law-related instruction, and that amounts to 60 hours or more of the universal LRE classroom instruction, and it's up to 20 hours of LRE planning, and then 20 hours for instruction to school staff and school community. One of the most important things of our SROs at our school is that they provide a role model for our children. And in these difficult times that we are going through with police officers, it's really important that these officers maintain a positive relation, not only with our students, but with our parents. So here are some examples of what they do. They're modeling how to handle stress for students, resolve conflicts. They celebrate successes in the classroom, and they learn how to be a friend. If you go to some of our middle schools, you will see these SROs out during the lunch recess actually playing basketball with the students and forming a relationship with them, which is very positive. They're consistent with students, their mannerisms, with staff and parents, and implementing the rules and regulations of that campus. They also encourage responsibility by helping students think through things that happen and the consequences of decisions. So those are one of the things that they really get involved in. They also are there to provide personal goals for children and develop plans to make desired changes if they are experiencing behavior issues. Another thing that they are really important to our schools is because they really show respect to each student, and that student in turn learns to respect the officer as well. And they always strive to be positive role models, which we need in our school district, and this also will help them outside the school. At that point, that's just an update on this program, and if you have any questions, I can be happy to answer them from any of you.
Thank you, Dr. Osuna, Mr. President, governing board members. Just a point of clarification, our 4 middle schools do have a full-time SRO, and our 4 K-8s share 2 SROs. So we have a total of 6 that we've been awarded with the grant. Thank you, Dr. Osuna.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez, because I think I said it reverse. I think I said that.
It's okay. I thought Janet was at Downs tonight, which is it's one of those nights where. So hey, we're good. No problem.
Apologize.
Board Member Cantu, do you have any questions? Hearing none. Board Member Hernandez.
I've always had concerns when it comes to police on campus, and I do understand your role. Thank you for the information. I just had questions relating to, and as you were speaking, I'm thinking, I'm visualizing this. I understand that the positive role models. I just been, I guess, on campus because of kids, because of my kids, and I'm going to tell you, oh my Lord, the participation that I saw on behalf of the SRO officer was downright, I'm going to say, probably exemplifying discipline, but very rough and very the approach to me, and I've always, and Dr. Chavez, for many years I've been advocating. We've had issues with resident officers that live across the street from a particular school and intimidate parents. We have some SRO officers that tend to park at the front of the building. And so you have a slew of parents filing and not getting near the school to drop off their kids for fear of anything else. I see that in many, especially on this side. I don't know about the rest of the schools, but the engagement that I saw from that SRO officer was more intimidating and teaching, maybe instilling discipline. But I always, it's a difficult role, and I think for me, because of my personal experience, I think with, by the way, I was a criminal justice major. I started off as that, but just given our demographics and our realities and our community members, and what the law enforcement, how they relate to us, is how I tend to look at it. And I'm always careful, even in our discussions with when we've had board members wanting to have perhaps more police presence to help with attendance. I question whether that's going to have a more negative effect. But I always just ask administrators to think or look at it from that perspective as well as we go forward with SRO officers. We certainly need them on campus. I think we just need to be a little bit, I'm glad to see the hours of training that are required. It's just working with the demographics and being respectful and just engaging in a meaningful way. I think a little bit beyond that, going back to our customer service, what message are we trying to give? To me, when I see the officer, and I understand we have issues of speeding, and we want to make sure that we protect the child's, our safety. At the same time, is it only through intimidation by showing that I have police presence that I'm going to fix this, or can I engage parents in a conversation about being proactive and just, harping on that to our community engagement piece? I don't know, but I'll leave it at that as we go forward. Thank you.
Board Member Cantu?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm sorry I had my phone on mute, but I was listening. I'm kind of slow with the technology, but I'm learning. I want to thank Dr. Tuna for her presentation, and I think that the presence and the way it's breaking down for the officers in the campuses, it's very clear. One of my concerns is always been, that out of a reaction, sometimes we use excessive authority with our students, but the way it's been set up by Dr. Tuna, it gives me a better and clear understanding. I know she had made this presentation in the past year, so I pretty much understood, but the way they're being utilized in the campuses, and it's mainly for safety and of the entire campus, and for our community as well, because our schools are in our community. So I commend them for the work, and look forward to see how we can always improve in the way we on the perception of the authority in the campus. I know that in the past, and I don't know if it still continue. I would like to address that as well. you know, it's more like an intimidation type of presence on the campuses, and that is something that definitely will go against one of our goals, which is exceptional customer service. This for everybody to be aware of that, and just let's continue working together, collaborating. And I know Dr. Osuna, with the PLC concept and the collaboration of the staff, you were able to apply for this grant that definitely is on top of the daily work that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Member Cantu. Board Member Hernandez.
I did have outlined a question that I skipped, and that question is, and I understand the roles, just that fine line of interaction, and I think there is a slide where you address this. It talks about the, I'm gonna go back to that slide. The law enforcement piece of it, I think it was before the education, law enforcement, the intervention piece. I love that. We're there for a reason, and it's intervention, prevention, assessment, engagement, all the positive things. But in that, along those lines, and in that work, when the SRO is able to act as a law enforcement officer, for example, in an assault or a fight or whatever that may be, and that role changes into that law enforcement piece. The question I had was regarding our policy, and I know we've had discussions and we're clear that we don't want, and I think that is stated and it's clear in the contract. The question of legal status doesn't come into play with that of our students or our parents. However, my question is when in this line of work it crosses over, I'm acting as a law enforcement officer, what happens and how is it, does the law enforcement role kick in, and now they're open to that because it's changed and based on the assessment that the officer is relying on?
Mr. President, governing board members, Mrs. Hernandez, when a SRO or school resource officer encounters someone that has broken the law, if you will, let's just say that it's someone has been busted for marijuana, possession of marijuana, and they are now acting as an officer. At that point in time, they are a Phoenix police officer, as they are with the title of SRO. Then they have the ability to act as a peace officer and communicate with the child, of course, having the due process, et cetera, et cetera. We have spoken with each of the sergeants at the Estrella precinct and also the Maryville precinct, and the conversation of whether they are illegal or legal is not one of the questions that they ask on-site campus, at any school campus. Now, here's where it has changed. If in fact that student is, or let's say parent is arrested and they go to the precinct, then at the precinct, then they do have the ability to communicate with ICE. If in fact they discover that that particular family or particular student is a non-resident or an illegal alien, they have the ability to call ICE, and ICE can come and communicate with those children or with that parent. However, having said that, what we have made very clear to our SROs and to the sergeants is that that does not take place on campus. In the past, after 1070 was passed, etc., the sergeants felt that they had that liberty to be able to ask legal status on site and at the campuses. Since that part of that 1070 bill has been overturned, the SROs will not do it on campus, and the sergeants have chosen to use that process at the precincts themselves or at the holding place, but not at the schools. Typically, if a kid breaks the law, even if it's a marijuana bust, they release the student to the parents, and then after the release of the parents, there's a court date hearing that's set that they have to go to. They'll go through the process with the law, ARS, and then they'll have a process of discipline with the school. The school process and the state process are two different things. And we educate parents on that so that they're aware that if in fact the student is given a sentence or probation or whatever the consequence may be, is not a school-related type of discipline. If in fact we suspend or whatever, place them in Academy for Success, then that's the school disciplinary action that's been taken. So there are two different roads when a student breaks the law, and we follow those very meticulously.
Dr. Chavez, you mentioned that you spoke to the sergeants and the SROs, but from what I recall from the last conversation last year, the SROs, we can't really tell them to not question the legal status because they're employees of the city of Phoenix, right? So when you mentioned that you did have the conversation, was that a verbal commitment for them to not question students and parents, or is that added to our new contract that we signed with them this year?
No, that's a verbal agreement that we've had with the sergeants. We have looked into the process of adding it to our grant since we've spoken with Joel and the ACLU, and there's a process for adding verbiage to the grant, which there's a whole process involved with that. And tonight we'll hear from the ACLU and their process for changing the grant to have language that would prevent SROs from doing such things.
Another question. Board Member Cantu, do you have a question before we ask you? Dr. Chavez, so let's say there's an incident at a school and the SRO, they cannot question as they have committed the legal status, whether the parent or the student is undocumented or not illegal, but they have the ability to after the student leaves the campus or when the parent leaves the campus, to take either the student or the parent to the precinct to further investigate the issue, the concern. And I'm assuming at that point, as you mentioned, they do have the ability to either call eyes or question their legal status, correct?
Typically, with the things that occur on a school campus, if it's not severe, according to them, they release the student to the parents and they do not take them to the precinct. However, there could be times where they must take the student immediately to the precinct, and at the precinct, yes, they have the ability to do so and ask legal status.
Hernandez?
There's also that discretion and that fine line, and that going back to the SB 1070, and even now, even apartment complexes, they still will not rent, or there's an interpretation out there, and that's what's I think we've got to put in writing. I think that more than just the verbal conversation regarding our expectations, and also continuing the education with our parents, but that fine line of and I hate to say a fight, not versus, I understand if it's a drug bust, it's gang related, I've got a handgun on campus by all means. But when it's a fight, typical fight, especially in middle schools, that it's just that excessive and that assessment, I guess, consideration that I'm asking for, because we are, as Dr. Osuna was reading, that positive role model here to be preventative, and we're hoping that throughout the year that's been taking place, so we avoid having those as the minimal, I guess, amount of exchanges that we could have. I'll leave it at that. And so I do have a recommendation. I'll wait for the presentation.
Board Member Gomez?
Mr. President,
Board Member Gomez from Mike.
Board Member, Mr. President, Dr. Chavez, I think wearing my old City of Phoenix hat, just for point of clarification, I believe in a briefing with Chief Renteria, she mentioned that the City of Phoenix does not, and I believe it's within their policy that they will not, that they do not ask for legal status. It's when the individual is then transferred, fortunately, to Maricopa County. At that point, that's when their legal status comes into play.
I'm sorry, to that point, just for clarification, are we talking about students on campus, or we're talking in general?
I'm talking in general. I mean, I know what we were told in the briefing, but is one thing what, maybe different.
I'm an example of that, I think. Removing graffiti in 2008, especially on the onset of the political climate.
Yeah.
I was pulled over 8 times for, we're having volunteers in my black pickup truck with tinted windows. The reality is that regardless, and I can address 3 different situations that I've proven wrong with the City of Phoenix PD, where they've apologized and called them isolated incidents. But we have to continue. I understand that good effort, a good faith effort, right?
Yeah, I understand. I completely agree with you, Mr. Hernandez. But I was just putting my little bit of information in that policy through the City of Phoenix is that from the Chief Renteria that they do not ask, and it's up to Sheriff Arpaio's officers to ask that question.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Board Member Cantu?
Yes, Mr. President, Dr. Chavez, thank you for the information that you have to provide us in regards to the levels of the law that has to be taking place when it comes to an issue in our campuses. And I think that this is very important that we bring it to the table, because this is an issue that is happening across the nation. I mean, we have so many racial issues on TV constantly, on police officers pulling guns on other races, or killing them, or doing that. But our district has to address these issues if we have them, and make sure that there are not allowed in our district. Regardless of what happened out there or whatever, we need to be focused on the safety of our students and our community, and be sure that not lower the expectations on the things that our officer or our SROs are capable of doing in our campus. Dr. Osuna put it very clear in writing of the things that they're, the standards that they have to follow. I like that. I truly love the way it's been put in writing. But as a board, I think we need to keep looking and emphasizing for them to provide those modeling for our students in our community, and always raising the standards when it comes to abuse of the law with our students.
Thank you, Board Member Cantu. A question for Dr. Osuna. I know that in page number 3 it mentioned that the grant was awarded to us for 6 SROs. What is the estimated cost for our district to maintain those SROs? I believe when I saw this in 2013, it was around $500,000. Is that accurate?
Mr. President, members of the board, at this time I'm not exactly sure. This is the man right here that would know those figures probably, but he's not. But we, like I said in the one slide, that we provide the seed money for this, the grant. So the grant gives us the other money that we need to sustain 6 officers here.
But I don't pay the full amount, right? Us as a district, we
No.
pay a portion of that, correct?
Correct.
And then I think we are going to hear from the ACLU, and we are making recommendations. But as Dr. Chavez mentioned, I think if we, we are paying part of the salary, I think we should continue to pressure or find different ways to get creative so that we can integrate this language into the official contract that we're having with the city of Phoenix. Because I mean, I think it's a complicated situation where they're not our employees, but we do pay their benefits and their salary as well. So we should have a way to put our wishes into that contract as we do for our employees, as we have our employee handbook as well. It shouldn't be no different for them since we are, again, paying some of their salary.
Yes, I agree completely. Matter of fact, they are a City of Phoenix employee. However, they are working in our schools, and we do have the ability to communicate to the sergeant about their evaluation. So we do have some power in this partnership that we have with the City of Phoenix. And also there's legal ways to do it in terms of adding language to the grant. It's a process that we would have to go through. But if the governing board wishes, we can begin that process. However, for this particular year, the grant has already been approved, and we can look at adding language to the grant in the following year so that that grant not only protects our families, but also ensures that the school resource officers do not ask legal status at our sites in a written and very explicit way.
Is there a way to revise that contract or that policy as we make changes with our own policies throughout the year to make adjustments if needed? Example, we have one here on the consent agenda number 12. We're waiving policy KFA, public conduct and school safety, to allow Sacramento wine for 2015-2016 year. It's a change that we have in our policy. Is there a process or legally, do we have room for that to make amendments, since I'm assuming we already approved this SROs at a previous board meeting, correct?
The grant is what it is for now. What we would have to do is revise the grant, and it would take, there's a whole process involved with that, and the ACLU, I'm sure, will give you a clear indication of how that process works. I briefly looked at that process. It is cumbersome. However, it is something that we have the ability to do. But I'll let the ACLU explain it, because I know they can explain it better than I. That whole process of changing the grant and the verbiage that would go into the grant.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. Board Member Hernandez.
But we do have we do have the ability to draft policy around that, even though the contract's already in place, and so we have the policy in writing. Then next time we go into the contract, we can't sign a contract that's going to contradict with the school board policy.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just for the record, Mr. President and governing board members, I just want to let you know that in having our SROs be part of our district, I know that they're City of Phoenix employees, but as they serve our district, I want to make it clear that they are part of our cafecitos. They do go and present to the parents. I have parents here that can vouch for that because I've seen them there. And so they do become part of our community in our schools. And I think we can actually state tonight that they do make our parents feel comfortable, not only that their children are safe, but that parents feel comfortable in going to them about any kind of problems that they may be having in their neighborhoods or communities where they reside. So I wanted that to be part of the record.
Thank you, Dr. Osman. Board Member Hernandez.
Just to that point, the very different roles the SRO officers and the community action officers, action officers that interact with people like me from at the block watches, at the meetings, even though we do respectfully have the super moms. Again, I think I just asked that our reality is that it's like in our roles. We behave in a certain manner given the venue, but when they're law enforcement officers, and discretion in their legal comes into play. Not to take away, I'm just saying there's really good ones, but you have to agree that there's also it's got to be a balance.
Board Member Cantu.
No comment.
Thank you. Just making sure. Okay, hearing no other questions, We are now passing over to Dr. Chavez.
Mr. President, governing board members, that concludes my update. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We are now moving to item D2, board updates, and we'll start with board member N2 over the phone.
Yes, Mr. President, I wanted to congratulate Ms. Sherry Celaya. I think that her work has been a great asset to our district, and I actually happy that she's moving on to a better, a more better position, I can say. And I like when our staff move forward on what they do, and because I know that people are looking at the work that we're doing in Cartwright, and she was part of that good work that has been happening in Cartwright, and I want to congratulate her on her new endeavor. And I also want to congratulate Moya for having received the Superintendent Award. And I would like to acknowledge as well all our staff, all our support staff, our cafeteria, the program staff, our custodians, our maintenance, mechanics, all the support staff that I hardly acknowledge on our board meetings, because if it was not for them, we will not be moving in the direction that we're moving, and I want to commend them for that. I think that, if we don't have somebody that cleans the classroom in the
mean that we're here for all stakeholders, and sometimes, you know, we make difficult decisions. And sometimes we make those difficult decisions against the will of some of the folks that told us to run, right? That's what our board encompasses. But being able, most importantly, to represent a diverse community with experience and as such. And that was part of my sharing with my board member as they went into that selection committee. Happy to say that there has been a recommendation and that process continues, and we'll see in July as to who shows up to that workshop with the county. I keep calling it, I'm going on to the data dig at the Wigwam. Great experience. I really, you know, what got my attention was having that professional educator share his story through his teaching. So I think that resonated more with me. And I questioned, wait a minute, he's actually had experience in this growing in this journey, which added all the more value to me, honestly. And the fact that we had many of our administrators would ask for feedback and input. I mean, we were not shy. We had administrators, especially when they were framing or rephrasing questions with a certain criteria, with establishing the student achievement and how you're going to phrase that. I saw that academic excellence at play, and thank you for having invited me. And a lot of other activities going on right now, engaging in a lot of conversations on a personal level, I think, with our members, which is, I'm sorry for this evening and any other night, but when it's so fresh and close to home, and we have topics that impact our community, and engaging in those conversations are just right here at the tip of my tongue. So thank you for hearing me out and your patience.
Thank you, Board Member Hernandez. Board Member Gomez.
Mr. President, fellow board members. First, I'd like to congratulate our communications team. I know Veronica Sanchez is not here right now, but great job on that 3-minute segment on Channel 12 last week on where Cartwright is looking for a highly qualified teacher. I thought that was great. And I shared the video on social media, so hopefully we do get some really good teachers. I'm sure we will. I unfortunately was not able to make the data showcase. I hear it's great. I missed it, but I missed it for a good reason. At that time, during that program, we were, our office, Supervisor Garrado's office, we once a month feed the homeless, and over at Tumbleweed. And it's an organization that feeds, that's there for our youth, homeless youth, particularly LGBT youth. But we served them, this month we served, we had a barbecue, so we had hamburgers and hot dogs, and I look forward to continuing that. As you know, Dr. Chavez, this meals program that we have in the district is near and dear to my heart because of the demographics we have here in our community. You know, a lot of times our students, this is the only place they have to eat a meal. I'd like to see, maybe a suggestion. I don't know what we have planned on doing for this summer. I know the summer programs, the meals programs, we're going out to the various apartment complexes, but I'd like to see maybe an e-blast out to their parents, to those that do have emails, maybe on our website, just educating the community about this meal programs that we have, because there's a lot of the youth and adults out there that are going hungry. So I'm glad that we have that program, but I look forward to this weekend with ASBA, and look forward to your presentation up there. And again, good. It's great to see that our energy efficiency is saving us millions of dollars. So I think that's all I have written down. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Member Gomez. And for my update, I also want to thank Sherry Zelaya for years of service with us in Cartwright. We are going to miss you. I also had an opportunity to attend the data showcase, this time only for a section that Dr. Lawler asked us if we can join, and it was just such an inspirational and amazing presentation that it brought me back to decisions that we made as a board back in our executive session, and we had some questions as of why we're doing this and why the changes and why we have to do this and the why. And I think by listening to Larry Ainsworth give his testimony on his experience and with his son as well, a lot of things fell into place just by having and to listen and to be able to meet him too. So thank you, Dr. Lauder, for extending that invitation to us and for the opportunity. As well, I was in the market and I was listening to some students talk about the summer program that we have, that it's also in some of the apartment complexes as well, and they were just mentioning to I was a group of moms, and they were sharing their experience how the Carter School District is providing food to the community in some of the community centers, or I believe some of the campuses as well, and then on their situation, their apartment complex as well. So it's it was just an amazing thing to hear that members of our community are taking opportunity and advantage of those programs that our district is able to provide. So thank you, Food Services, Diane, for your leadership and support, and thank you, Mr. OJ, for making that happen financially as well. Always making things happen for us, so thank you. And I am looking forward to attend Friday the ASBA. Although I encounter some hard problems just before coming to my board meeting, I'm hoping I'll find a way to get up there to Flagstaff and be part of that presentation with you, Dr. Chavez. And that will conclude my update. We're now moving to item E, call to the public. Do we have any requests at this point for public participation? Hearing none, we'll move on to item F, consent agenda. Dr. Chavez.
Yes, Mr. President, governing board members, the administration recommends the governing board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Motion was made by Board Member Gomez, second by Board Member Hernandez. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the consent agenda as follows, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Dr. Chavez, I believe we have an announcement.
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the new assistant principal for Sunset Elementary School, Jeremy Chandler. I also would like to congratulate Kevin Price, the new Director of Business Services for the 2015-2016 school year. And we also would like to congratulate Mark Garvis, the new Director of Building Operations. Unfortunately, he could not be here tonight, so we congratulate him also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. We are now moving to G, other action items. We don't have any. We're moving to item H, other information discussion items. H1, discussion and information regarding the Arizona Civil Liberties Union. Handcuffs on success, why immigration enforcement in schools is not the answer. Dr. Chavez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, governing board members. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Joe Edmond, legal fellow with the American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona, who will be giving a presentation on handcuffs on success. Joel, it's all on you.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez.
There we
go. Thank you, Dr. Chavez, and thank you, board members and staff, for having us here. Again, my name is Joel Edmond. I'm an attorney with the ACLU of Arizona. I'm joined by my colleague, Dulce Juarez, also from the ACLU. And yeah, we're very grateful to be here to talk about this issue, which we got into a little bit earlier tonight. But I first just wanted to thank all of the board members for your leadership on this issue and just having this discussion, first of all, and the sentiments that I think everyone expressed on the importance of keeping our kids protected from unneeded questions about their immigration status or their parents' immigration status in schools. So a little bit of background. Our work in this started after SB 1070 was passed, when we set up a hotline that Dulce knows an awful lot about, having run it for a couple of years, and continuing our outreach work in collecting stories of people whose rights have been violated in the name of 1070. And one thing that we learned from the hotline that wasn't necessarily expected was that in some cases these things were happening at schools or just off of schools if students were removed from school campuses for the purpose of being asked about their immigration status. And we thought that that was something that community all across the state would be particularly concerned about and want to do something about. And so that's sort of the beginning of our work on these. So I'm going to breeze through a little bit of it since we had a bit of an introduction to this issue earlier tonight. So I won't hopefully duplicate too much, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about SB 1070 and then sort of a few basic concepts that bring us to the point that we're at now and then where we can go from here. So the first of those concepts comes from the Supreme Court case called Plyler v. Doe. And even though I'm a lawyer, I'm not going to get into the details of the Supreme Court case, even though that's the kind of thing we love to do. It's pretty simple. They decided that every child, regardless of immigration status, has the same fundamental right to a public education. And based on that, we believe, and other school districts around the state have started to come around to this view, that means that if a student is afraid that they're going to be asked about their immigration status every time they walk in the door, that's not the same right to go to a public school that every other kid has. And so that just shouldn't be allowed, and in fact violates their constitutional rights. And if you do it in the name of 1070 or anything else, it violates the Constitution, and that's what comes first, and every kid's civil rights. So that's the first. The second you probably heard about is this phenomenon, the school to prison pipeline, which is sort of the over-criminalization of our whole society, but in schools in particular. And if you want to see the impact of having more police and especially more reliance on law enforcement in schools to do things that used to be the job of administrators, you can just do a quick Google search and you'll find tons of examples across the country of cases that would have been simple disciplinary matters that now result in criminal referrals and in some cases criminal records for students, which has a huge long-term impact on their success. So I was really happy to hear in the earlier conversation about SROs talk about having administrators still be kind of the lead role in dealing with disciplinary matters at schools, and hopefully we're going to have SROs try to avoid filtering kids into the criminal justice system as much as possible, because that just has such severe, long-standing impacts on kids' lives. But also because of a couple of things. One, the phenomenon we see in general with policing in America in 2015, of it having a disproportionate impact on minority communities and persons with disabilities. We see that same thing reflected in our schools in Arizona. The statistics we have up on the board here from the 2011 to 2012 school year in Arizona statewide, about 5.1 per 1,000 students had a criminal referral to law enforcement from something that happened on campus. And we see the numbers are much higher for Black and Hispanic students, and especially for students with disabilities. So it's the same discrepancies we see in society at large, but in our schools. So that's one thing. One aspect of sort of the school to prison pipeline is going to especially negatively affect minority communities. And the other, of course, is SB 1070, which I know everyone's familiar with, but just as a quick reminder, most of the SB 1070 has been struck down by the courts, but the sort of core provision, the show me your papers provision, section 2B, is still in force. And that means that police can, when they reasonably suspect, I think that's important, that someone is in the country without authorization, they can ask them in certain circumstances about their immigration status. Of course, the main point here is that 1070 can't rewrite the Constitution. So if kids have a fundamental right to public education, that's the law of the land. Now, I mentioned a hotline earlier that we started in response to 1070, and we got a few examples, as I mentioned, of cases in which 1070 was being enforced in schools and kids were being questioned and sometimes turned over to immigration authorities, and sometimes they said, well, we have nothing to do with this particular kid. But it was still, as you can imagine, a traumatizing event. So this is a case from southern Arizona where a student was handed over to Border Patrol, who released the student after a few hours. We had another one where they contacted immigration officials. It turned out the student was a U.S. citizen, so the immigration officials said there's nothing for us to do here, and moved on. And then another example where a student was picked up by police, and they contacted immigration officials. In that case, the student was just standing outside the classroom too early in the day, and that was deemed suspicious behavior. So these are the kind of little things that can turn into immigration questions, which turn into the parents being afraid if they're undocumented, and the kind of fear that's just entirely unnecessary in a lot of these cases. And we saw broadly after 1070, people, and especially young people, particularly afraid in dealing with civic institutions like police and the schools. And so that's why we think it's particularly important to send a clear message that there's no need to be afraid in school. And these studies that are mentioned here, we can provide citations to if anyone's interested. Okay, so that's the basic problem, and I think I probably belabored the point a little bit given that conversation earlier. I think we know what the problem is. And the solution is pretty simple, and we talked about that. I'm going to flip through some of these. It's to pass a policy and to put into the agreement with the police department that the officers provided by the police department will not ask about immigration status, the kids or the parents' immigration status. And the reason you have the power to do that is that, as there was some discussion of, these are Phoenix officers, but there's an agreement between the police department and the school district that governs what their duties will be at school, what they can do, what they can't do, how many officers there will be, that sort of thing. So it's totally within the rights of the two parties to that agreement to decide they're not going to ask about immigration status. And this is what Tucson just did in the fall, last fall of 2014. The Tucson Unified School District decided, given the examples from the past, and just wanted to send a clear message that this wasn't ever going to happen in their schools, they voted to put this in their agreement with the Tucson Police Department. Their agreement was up for renewal, and they wanted to be clear that we weren't going to agree to something that said that police could ask kids about immigration status. And the City Council agreed and unanimously voted to include that in their provision. So that sort of got the ball rolling within the state. Since then, the Phoenix Union passed a resolution last week, which was similar, and we've been talking to other school districts throughout the Phoenix area to keep this momentum going. This is the Tucson policy. When interacting with minors, police officers or school personnel shall refrain from asking students about their immigration status. So that's an example of just kind of how simple the language is. And it's just a matter of inserting that and then making sure the officers know that that's kind of the rule they're supposed to follow. Our recommendation is a little bit longer. It's 2 sentences instead of 1. But the key difference here is that students can't be removed from district property for the purpose of asking, because there's concern about taking the kid across the street to the Circle K and then calling ICE to ask about immigration status. So simply that they can't question students on district property or during the course of their duties. So anything that would be covered by the agreement can't ask kids about immigration status in those circumstances. Simple, and as Dr. Chavez mentioned, if the officers have all individually agreed to do this, then it shouldn't be a huge ask to put it down on paper, I would think. And then in terms of establishing accountability with the current officers and any new officers that come into the program so that everyone knows what the rules are, and especially the parents and kids know what the rules are. I think it's one thing for the officers to know they're not allowed to ask about immigration status. They pledge that they won't. It's another thing for every parent to know that they have that assurance. So Dulce is happy to offer to do Know Your Rights workshops at schools throughout the district for parents and students about this issue and related issues related to 1070, to help talk to educators and district staff, basically whatever would be helpful in communicating the message if the board decides to put this into policy and to put this into the agreement with the police department. So basically that's what we're here to say. That the next steps, I think, are simple. One is to find out what exactly the agreement with the police department says now and when it's up to be renewed, and whether it's up to be renewed now or in the future. The two parties to it, you and the police department, should be able to revise it unless it says something otherwise. So that'd be one thing to look into with your legal counsel. There shouldn't be any reason that you can't change it if the police department would agree to that. And again, hopefully there's enough districts in the Phoenix area now moving that direction that we can get that conversation going at the police department too. So that'd be one, is to contact talk to legal counsel about what the agreement says exactly and what the kind of negotiation cycle for that is. But even if it's not something that can be changed immediately, the board could still pass some sort of resolution saying this is what we want in the next time we renew this, just so you can take this stance earlier and send a message, send a clear message now, and implement it whenever that's possible. So, any questions?
Board members, do we have any questions? Board Member Hernandez.
Thank you for coming to present to us and sharing the background of what's going on around the state. And I'm glad to hear that Phoenix Union passed this. They're good people at heart. However, that prison pipeline, we're in a position to be able to also educate and prepare on college and career readiness. I have to include that in. But thank you for sharing that, because I've got a recommendation. Obviously, I think we're going to have to ask our legal counsel regarding a proposal for a resolution with possible language around, and if I could state that for the record, putting together, and I'd be glad to draft that, putting together a statement that our district will not have SROs asking legal status of our students and parents in addressing school issues or in the course of their duties, and perhaps forwarding that on to legal counsel to see if we could do that, even though as a statement, if anything, not only just a statement of support for the direction of our district, but I think something that as we continue the conversation about streamlining and bringing all our administrators on that same page and implementing the same rules across the district, this would just be one other topic that I would hope is shared with, and it is shared with down the totem pole regarding our board direction and feel regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, was that board member Cantu again? Somebody called.
Yes, I'm back, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, board member Cantu. We just listened to a presentation from the ACLU. You can find that on board docs as well. We are in the process of asking questions right now, and I'll give you some time if you need to review before asking questions. I'll go to board member Gomez, and then back to Ms. Hernandez, and then myself, and that should give you hopefully enough time to catch up. Board member Gomez.
Mr. President, fellow board members, having the discussion that we had earlier, I think that this is something that we should move forward with. That I'm all for drafting this resolution, and then also lobbying our city council members to do what the city of Tucson did. So thank you very much for this presentation, Joe. I want to thank you for the work you do at the ACLU Arizona and Dulce. Thank you very much for everything you do within the community, not only without the ACLU, but you do on a personal level. Thank you for all the work you do in the community.
Board member Hernandez.
while you're lobbying city council regarding this, add on what New York just did in partnership with the USCIS naturalization portion of it, about continuing education for its constituents that want to pursue becoming citizens. So it just came out. There was a press release today. But that'd be great for our city of Phoenix, especially right now during election time, to be able to propose. It's a win-win.
I also wanted to echo the recommendation from Board Member Hernandez that, at this point, it seems that we already have the grant, but nevertheless, we need to continue conversations and we need to continue to move the topic forward. And we shouldn't wait towards December or January of next year while we draft the new grant. I think doing a resolution similar to Phoenix Union or the recommendation from the ACLU could be a definitely first step from this governing board and district to send a message to Phoenix Union, to the City of Phoenix Police Department and echo what Phoenix Union did, and hopefully with your help and your support in the community, many other districts will do the same, and that could be a way to continue to build pressure on not only the City of Phoenix, the chief, the police chief, but also the city council who are in charge and responsible to nevertheless direct their chief of police or city manager, whoever is in charge, to agree to these changes. It's something that from this governing board, I think we do have wide support for a resolution. Board Member Hernandez volunteered to put something together to pass to Dr. Chavez for legal as well, and I'm sure that Dr. Chavez is gonna get legal involved to continue the conversations as well.
Mr. President, governing board members, and Joel, thank you for your presentation. I do appreciate it. The next steps for us actually is seeking legal counsel. We'll send the document that we just received from the City of Phoenix to the trust. They'll review it, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll draft language that is pretty consistent with what you have and what the City of Tucson has written. It's pretty simple language, so those are the next steps for us, and we'll get started on that ASAP.
And I'll get to Mr. Gomez right now. And since we are talking to the attorneys, I don't know if it's going to be an executive session or in the public, but I think it may be an opportunity to elaborate with what Ms. Hernandez has proposed, and for this whole governing board to take part of that process and take part of the resolution so that we can all have the same opportunity to input, and then also support the initial draft that Ms. Hernandez is willing to help draft as well. If we can find a way to have the setting where after listening to the attorney, the governing board, can all of us together as a team, we can draft and all support a resolution and provide our ideas as well. And yeah.
Yes, that can be done one or two ways. I would recommend a study session with legal counsel so that we can communicate about what the verbiage would be, and then assure that the verbiage is actually legal.
Yeah, and hopefully if the ACLU would like to be present here for that as well, you guys are definitely welcome to join us and somehow be part of that process as well, since we did receive a recommendation from you today. Mr. Gomez?
I was just going to be real funny here, but I was going to say if I stop the city, just go to Maricopa County and see what they can do, but I just had to throw it in there.
Board Member Hernandez?
It is recorded, so yeah, we'll pursue that as well.
Board Member Cantu, do you have any questions at this point?
Yes, let me just clarify this for me. We are on page 1, is that correct?
Yes, we are on page 1, correct, and the presentation should be on board docs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I concur with Dr. Chavez. She's just legal advice. It's always good to do things the way the more transparent and legal possible, because that's that's actually one of the correct motors. So I thank Mrs. Fernandez for her idea, And like I mentioned before, it's important that we look into these things before prevent anything that could happen in our district, and continue focusing on the positive. I don't condone crime at all, but I think that there are lines that we should not cross as well, you know. And but thank you, Mr. Fernandez, for your idea, and I look forward for that study session.
Thank you, Board Member Cantu. Board Member Hernandez?
I have to throw it back at ACLU and do this outreach in terms of what was going on in the community, and of course, it's right down my alley, so of particular interest. But I would like to ask, given Mr. Gomez's relationship with ASBA, the fact that if we have 3 school districts offer a resolution, the same resolution, then we could also bring it before the Arizona School Board Association and pose it at, statewide for support. That's a challenge.
Gomez, go ahead.
To you and
Board Member Hernandez and Mr. President, I will bring that up at this weekend's event to the appropriate individuals in the room.
And I thank you again, Joe, for your wonderful presentation, for your leadership, and then to Dulce, all of your work in the community, as well as Ms. Hernandez mentioned. You are in the community every single day, answering questions at crazy hours as well. I've called me in the past for help as well at crazy hours, so thank you for your support and leadership. Any other questions before we conclude? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you. Well, if I may, thank you for having us, and I just want to say the ACLU is here to help with moving forward with the process, whether at the school district or with the police department or ASBA or any way that we can be helpful in moving the ball forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now moving to item 8.2. Request for future agenda items as information is less discussion at a future meeting. Do we have any requests at this point? Board Member Hernandez?
Yes, just a continuation of our conversations that we were having. One, the venue to discuss the resolution of the proposal, because I can submit that and we can work on that, but also a review of the policy of what the current is, so that we can make those changes as necessary once we have the conversation with legal counsel.
Okay, any other requests? Board Member Cantu over the phone?
Mr. President, I don't have any requests at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gomez, none? Okay, I don't have any at this point, so we only have Mrs. Hernandez's request. We are now moving to item I, announcements of future meeting dates and other routine information concerning the governing board. The next combined public hearing / public meeting, followed by a regular governing board meeting, followed by a governing board retreat, will be held on Wednesday, July 1st, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. at the Cartwright School District Boardroom. We're now moving to item J, call to executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1. Discussion and consideration of the superintendent's performance pay assessment for June 2015 quarter. Do we have a motion?
Hello.
Second.
Motion was made by Board Member Cantu, second by Board Member Hernandez. All those in favor to move to executive session signify by saying aye.
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 I vote aye as well. Motion carries. We're not moving to executive session.
She definitely knows how to put in a lot of Now you know how. Now you know how I'm going through. Everybody through runs, for sure. So I think it's only time to,
But I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Yeah, usually, I think, you live on the 14th,
I leave Sunday. I leave, yeah.
I can do ACO, yes, I do.
Are you registered?